Burke is kept away. We don't want to harm him. We don't want him to have to deal with this. He's got a lot on his plate already. More important than your daughter, this is a once in a lifetime event. If we're going to find out what happened to your daughter, it's going to be today. The Ramseys said to the police, "We are not coming to talk to you. Period. Don't talk to me. Get out of my face." And that was a source of serious contention because they weren't yet sure that they had done everything that they needed to do before the release of the body. They're telling us, "We have tried to talk to the Ramseys on 3 separate occasions. We have been interested in interviewing John and Patricia Ramsey since the murder. To date, there have been 3 specific attempts that we can mention that they have not got. We call them, they ain't called back." Okay, we stopped on page 31 of this report. Got a little bit more to go. I think I did highlight page 31 through 32 for further discussion. And so we talked a little bit about police were reluctant to release JonBenét's body. They weren't sure that all of the forensic work had been done. And we talked about a little bit the motivation that we kind of believe is leading John, because it seems like this was a fast move. I know John wouldn't characterize it that way, but this seems like the police are trying to slow things down and just have a conversation. And it seems like John and Patsy are moving very quickly. They're moving very quickly. Some things, and there's a lot of criticism early. I can understand if there was criticism 3 months after, but there's a lot of criticism early. And I mean, within a day. They're criticizing the police within a single day. December 27th, the police are getting it. And it just kind of grows from there. They're going on TV telling us that the police are terrible. The police aren't telling anybody anything. And we're looking right at the reports that the police are doing at least once a month, if not on a weekly basis. The police are talking to us. And all the while the police are talking to us in these reports that are released for immediate release, they're telling us, "We have tried to talk to the Ramseys on 3 separate occasions. We have been interested in interviewing them." This is where we stopped last time. "We have been interested in interviewing John and Patricia Ramsey since the murder. To date, there have been 3 specific attempts that we can mention that they have not got. We call them, they ain't called back." You know what I mean? The first one is immediately following the murder. It was the Boulder Police Department's expectation that John and Patsy Ramsey would provide interviews prior to leaving Boulder to attend their daughter's funeral in Atlanta. However, they advised the police. The Ramseys said to the police, "We are not coming to talk to you. Period. Don't talk to me. Get out of my face. Stay away from me. You know, we don't intend to talk to you prior to burying my daughter." And that was a source of serious contention because they weren't yet sure that they had done everything that they needed to do before the release of the body, right? Police were reluctant to release the body of JonBenét's body because they were not sure all the necessary forensic work had been completed, nor had they had the opportunity to discuss the circumstances of JonBenét's death with the parents. The body was released, though, within 24 hours of what they wanted. So they held the body for 24 hours, trying to get those last things in. Whatever you can do in 24 hours, you know, I think they asked for the release. I think the body was released, I think on the 29th. This report was saying, I think it was released on the 29th, and 24 hours prior would be the 28th. So that means that they were requesting the body on the 28th. So if we look at the timeline of JonBenét being discovered on the 26th, and then the next day they lawyer up, and then on the 28th, they request for JonBenét's body. And then on the 29th, they're shipping JonBenét to Atlanta, or they're flying JonBenét out to Atlanta. They're making those arrangements, and they're flying out there themselves, and they're contacting the funeral home. And then they're having the ceremony, the memorial and the end of life ceremony on the 31st. That's fast. That's almost an immediate turnaround that they're doing. So, but police are saying, well, we still had questions. We haven't had time to spend with the body to even get the autopsy report and sit down and ask, you know, hey, what can you tell us about what we're looking at here? That's what they wanted to do. But the Ramseys pushed it forward so fast that it kind of threw them off, and they were like, yo, we can't do anything. That significantly hampered and altered the outcome of this investigation. So said the second attempt to obtain an interview was in January. Police had identified the terms of a productive interview, and the response from the Ramsey attorneys on less than on a 1 day's notice was that they would be willing to present John and Patsy Ramsey only under the following conditions. So the police said on less than a 1 day's notice, they said, hey, can we have an interview with John and Patsy now in January? The funeral is over. Can we get an interview, because it's been past 48 hours, but we want to try to, get this thing going. And you remember we talked about how the attorneys batted back another request by the police for a handwriting sample. They said, we're considering the appropriateness of this request. Dang, I didn't know complying with your daughter's murder investigation was considered appropriate or not. That's really weird to me. But nevertheless, we try to talk to him. Here we go again. We're trying to consider the appropriateness of your request to interview my people. And, we sent it out, and then they came back to us really quickly. Here we go with this quick thing again. We talked about John fighting for this body, fighting for JonBenét's body and getting it moved relatively quickly out of the hands of the cops. So the cops couldn't really do anything. And because they were trying to be nice, and stuff like that, they gave him the body. I don't want to be, because you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be contentious like that. And it's like, man, I'm not trying to hold your daughter's body from you. You can turn it over for her to be buried. I'm not trying to do all that, but you're kind of forcing me in a position it's getting contentious, but it's not coming from my side. It's coming from your side. And there's only so long that people can continue to push you and push you and push you. And he's like, man, I'm not a fighter. I don't fight nobody. I don't cause problems with anyone. But it's only so long that you can do that before people keep pushing you back to where you pushing back. It's like, man, stop pushing me, man. Quit. I'm not that person, but stop, And so they said, look, these are the terms of the interview. So clearly, and we are in April 23rd, and they have not interviewed yet. April 23rd. And they said, hey, and so apparently this indicates that there's some sort of resistance and hesitancy to being interviewed on the Ramseys' part. And not only is there some resistance, but there's been some discussion or some conversation around the terms of what that interview would look like. And so for the police to come out with something like this, speaking specifically about terms of an agreement or terms of an interview, might indicate that there were some sort of underlying conference or a sort of under the table conversations that were happening. And so these are the conditions. And they said, hey, look, we'll only allow John and Patsy to interview. Think about that. We will only allow them to interview to give you information about their daughter under the following conditions. They have to that the interviews be done together, that the interviews be conducted at the Ramseys' attorney's office, and that Patricia Ramsey's doctor be present during the interview. Are you kidding me? That the interviews be done together? Come on, man. We're going to separate you. So I want to just make sure your story lines up. If the story is the story, y'all don't know anything about the murder anyway. Y'all don't know anything about it. So what would y'all need to be separated for? You don't know anything about the murder. You weren't there. Essentially, and honestly, none of you know anything about the murder. You weren't there. That's what I'm confused about. Neither one of you guys were at the murder, right? Right? If neither one of you were there, what could you tell the cops? Why do you need to be together? Why do you need to be together to tell the cops? I don't know. Why do we need to be sitting together to tell the cops? I don't know. Think about that. You don't know anything, but I'm sitting together with my wife here, and we're both saying, I don't know. That's what I was going to say. Even if my wife wasn't here, that's what I would say, because I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I wasn't there. What about these pineapples? I don't know. I wasn't there. What about these shoes? I don't know. We don't even have those shoes. Well. There's been, that you've done this. What about that? Man, this is what I know about my daughter. I know this, that, and the third. Y'all don't need to be together. And it shouldn't take y'all 4 months to say that. If you were truly, and you know what? The more the merrier. Let's throw Burke in there. If Burke truly doesn't know, it don't take y'all 4 months to put Burke up there and say, son, tell him what you know. My God, I think I would hope that if something like this, if I had kids and something like this happened to my daughter or one of my kids, I would bring my kid to the forefront and say, tell him what you know, tell him what you saw. Like I mentioned, if you haven't had the chance, and you don't have to, I'm just telling you, it was a good video to me. I was watching, Constar Manifesto. I told y'all he did the Great White Whale analysis, and he was kind of, this was a very good comparison. Come on, it was a very good comparison. He was talking about the different ways in which Elizabeth Smart's family acted versus John Ramsey. Elizabeth Smart's sister, who was in the bed with her, woke up and she was one of the key witnesses in the case, sitting there at her age saying, yep, this is what I saw. This is what happened to my sister, blah, blah, blah. And not to mention, she was around the same age as Burke. If I'm remembering correctly, I could be wrong, but I think she was around the same age as Burke. And she said, this is what I saw. And her parents let her do it because it was beneficial. But on the other hand, Burke is kept away. We don't want to harm him. We don't want to put him in a not compromising. What's the word they use? We don't want him to have to deal with this. He's got a lot on his plate already. More important, you're acting like the death of your daughter, more important than your daughter. You're acting like the death of your daughter is like more than once in a lifetime. Like this is a once in a lifetime event. If we're going to find out what happened to your daughter, it's going to be today. That is wild that you would say, oh, he can't be bothered with this. Essentially, he can't be bothered with this because, he shouldn't have to deal with that. The pain of losing a sibling is not enough. That is wild. I don't know how many of you out there have lost a sibling. I've not. I cannot imagine losing a sibling and not wanting to talk to the police about it and not being the first to be in their face and be like, what have you found? Look, man, I know my brother would not be over there. That's how a lot of cases are solved. When a daughter is kidnapped or when a son or when a child is kidnapped and the parents are up in the cop's face and saying, no, y'all need to take my phone call. And they're like, Miss So-and-so, we're getting to it. We're doing everything we can. And they are on the phone. No, my daughter would have never left her phone at home. She would have never left her makeup bag at home. She has been kidnapped. You need to look for her. Something is not right. And so, Elizabeth Smart's younger sister was sitting there. This is what I saw. The man did this. I tried to stay asleep, but I woke up. And this is what we're saying when we think about kids. Kids be peeking. You're awake. I see you. I can see you awake. If we know this is the case, then we know that it's possible that Burke was awake for some period of time. Confirmed by the fact at some point in time, confirmed by the fact that what he said on the Dr. Phil show. When they came in my room, I think according to his words on the Dr. Phil show, when they came into my room, I played like I was asleep. I was just kind of scared. And my mom busted in the room. And then a cop came in with a flashlight, but I just played like I was asleep. Yep. But you're awake though, weren't you? That old kid trick. I used to do it too. We all used to do it. Son, are you asleep? Oh, he must be asleep. As soon as the door closes, get back up and start playing the game. That's the oldest trick. That's the oldest trick in the book. Wait till dad goes downstairs and jump up and start playing the game. I hear dad going downstairs. I know what the Sixth step on the stair sounds like, makes like a sound. Okay. He's legitimately going down the stairs. Because sometimes my dad would come in the room and he would open the door. He would just look. He would wait for a second. Play sleep. Play sleep with me. And then he would slowly close the door. Here with my eyes open, wait for him to go downstairs. So Burke, like Elizabeth Smart's sister, could have done the same thing. And so she saw the entire thing, heard the entire thing, looking, kind of squinting with my eyes, watching this guy, keep my eyes closed, not moving, let it go. Because let's be honest, what kind of an idiot comes in with another, in terms of, the Elizabeth Smart case, with another child laying in the bed and you're trying to whisper? Stupid. That's dumb. Why would you commit a crime in front of a child? You're an idiot. You should have been caught. Committed crime in front of another child and then, I don't want you. I'm just going to take her. Well, she saw you. So clearly she would tell. You're a dummy. So in the same way, Burke, did you see anything? Did you hear anything? I know that this guy was wandering around upstairs. Maybe you didn't hear anything when she was downstairs, but maybe you, or when she was down in the basement, but maybe you heard something when the guy was wandering around upstairs. I mean, my God, the guy was apparently in John Andrews' room at some point in time, and then he went into your sister's room. And you had to have heard, if there's a stun gun, you had to have heard the shock of the stun gun subduing her and then going down the stairs. You know what I mean? You had to heard some going downstairs or something like that. And then they get downstairs and, you had to have heard, I'm pretty sure you got up on several occasions to sneak back downstairs. You had to have heard, somebody opening a cabinet and getting the bowl down and, opening the refrigerator. And Patsy said, I think in an interview, she said, she bought some pineapples from Safeway. So, they were already prepared. And so they opened up the plastic. You go into the refrigerator and you open up the Safeway box. It's in plastic. I go to Safeway, so I see how they package it. And so you open up the little, thing and it just, it's a little noisy. I mean, you got it. Like if you're trying to be quiet, you got to just barely open it. I'd have heard something and they pull down the dishes and they pull down the spoon or whatever. And they put the pineapples in there. And JonBenét, she's as quiet as kept. She didn't know these people. And she, JonBenét just knows how to be silent in this moment. As curious as she was, she ain't asking no questions. Hey, who are you? What are you doing here? Do you know my daddy? Not asking any of those questions. What are the odds? Didn't hear anything. So, but in Elizabeth Smart's case, she told us everything we needed to know. But y'all need to do an interview together to let us know that you don't know anything. The interview can't be at the police office. We got to go set up videotape somewhere else. It has to be at your attorney's office, and the doctor has to be present. Why? Another condition is that the attorneys would specify which Boulder Police Department officers would conduct the interview, and that the interview with Patricia Ramsey would not be more than an hour. Which Boulder Police Departments would conduct the interview? Y'all meddling. This is wild. Which Boulder police officers would conduct the interview? Why? Who specifically? Who specifically do you want? Who specifically are you looking for? Tell me, who do you want to conduct the interview? Our detectives are here. Could have been the case that, though, you saw the look from Linda Arndt and you said, she can't be here conducting this. You may have also ran into Steve Thomas a couple of times. Didn't like the way he asked questions, didn't like his style. And so you said, he can't be here. Or it may have had nothing to do with that. Maybe it was a friend of the attorney. And the attorney said, I know Chief Kobe, or I know Beckner, or I know Detective Trujillo. I don't know if he knew him. Just saying, throwing names out there just as an example. We'll have him ask questions, because if I give you a wink, you know what that means. Back off, and I can control much more. And that the interview with Patsy would not be more than an hour. So first of all, the doctor is going to be there. So to keep up the antics, to distract me and prevent me from asking questions anymore. And then you give me a 1 hour time limit. We've got a lot of things to go through, man. The first time I talked to you, we can't talk about anything. That's weird. These conditions were totally unacceptable to the Boulder Police Department. Now, what John will say is, we tried to interview and they didn't want to. That is what John will say. But John will not tell you that they asked for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. John will not tell you that. He would just say they didn't want to solve this case. They never wanted to. These conditions were totally unacceptable to the Boulder Police Department. And the third effort to obtain interviews with the Ramseys has occurred over the last few weeks. And so we are in April, I said, April 23rd. So early April is when they try to do this. Try to come back to it. We did in January, let it cool off for a second, then we come back to it. In an effort to move the interview process forward, the Boulder Police agreed to consider deviating from the normal interview procedures. That's what the Vanity Fair article said, missing innocence. That's what Anne Louise Bardock reported. The deviation from normal police procedures. Okay. The Boulder Police agreed to consider deviating from the normal interview process. The last offer of conditions received by the Boulder Police Department from the Ramseys was reviewed with the FBI's Child Abduction and Serial Killer Unit, and based on their advice, police concluded that the conditions were unacceptable. They wouldn't get any help. That's what John keeps saying. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to bring in anybody. They didn't want to bring in the FBI. Are you reading, sir? The involvement, and based on the involvement, they already told you several times we work with the FBI, and based on we reviewed it with the FBI's Child Abduction and Serial Killer Unit, and based on their advice, they said that's unacceptable. You hate to hear it. If I'm the Ramseys, I hate to hear it. Oh, FBI, you think that's going to bring me down? You must not know who you messing with. You must not know who I am. You think that's going to stop me? You got another thing coming. And they did. Oh, they did. These police had another thing coming. As a result of this review, the times that had been scheduled for an interview were canceled because it was felt that the interviews would not be productive. Because this is what's going to happen. When we get there, it's going to be a lot of, because we only got an hour with Patsy, and she's one of the key pieces. It's going to be a lot of mumbo jumbo. Hey, how you doing? Because it's going to be my hour is going to be, part of my hour is going to be wasted shooting the breeze. We're going to sit down and we're going to have to get into we can't even get outside of the pleasantries in 30 minutes. And you see what I'm saying? 30, 45 minutes. And then Patsy's gone after an hour. How do you know, Patsy? Can we take it? Can we play it by ear? You see what I'm saying? Can you agree to have Patsy sit down and play it by ear so that we can say, hey, Patsy, she's going to be here. She can give you some time, but we're going to play it by ear according to what the doctor is saying. He's going to sit there. He's going to monitor. That's stupid anyway. We are trying to find your child. And this is the stunt that you are pulling. Oh, I can't because bruh, come on. but we're willing to oblige. But then you start talking about, oh, I think that's what killed the deal. An hour. You can only get an hour of her time. We can't ask any questions in an hour. What kind of circus is this? More police bungling is what they will tell you. The police are bungling. They're messing up the case right now. Are they? Are they messing up the case? From somebody who doesn't want to do an interview and they're giving us terms. You know what this sounds like? The polygraphs. Police wouldn't agree to certain terms for the polygraph. The Boulder police continue to request interviews with John and Patricia Ramsey, and their reluctance to provide witness information continues to hinder the police investigation into the murder of their daughter. Boulder police remain willing to discuss conditions for a productive interview. This is 32. Okay, that's what I had made a note on 32. Okay. And then 34. Yes. Okay. We're still on 32. Okay, cool. April 30th. April 30th. Yes, I did write on this. April 30th, 1997. 26th. 26th. January, February, March, April. 4 months and some change. 4 months and some change. It took them to set up an interview. Two Boulder police detectives today conducted interviews with John and Patricia Ramsey at the offices of the Boulder County District Attorney. Also present for the interviews were a representative from the Boulder County District Attorney's office, an attorney from the Ramsey, I wonder if that's Hofstrom, an attorney from the Ramsey family, and a Ramsey family investigator. The interviews began at 8 a.m. Conditions of the interviews met the specifications outlined last week by the Boulder Police Department. John and Patricia Ramsey would be interviewed separately. Patricia Ramsey would be interviewed first. There would be an open-ended time frame for the interviews with reasonable breaks. The interviews would be tape recorded. The interviews would be conducted by two Boulder police detectives selected in consultation with District Attorney Hunter. Each interviewee would be accompanied by his or her attorney. So DA Hunter is well aware of who is being chosen. Neither the Boulder Police Department nor the Boulder County District Attorney's Office will comment further after today. Okay. $34, I believe. Ramsey case update. Boulder police received DNA test results from Cellmark Diagnostics on Tuesday, May 13th. This material was sent to Cellmark on March 4th, 1997. Tests began on the week of March 31st. There will be no additional information provided on the context of the test results by the Boulder police. The Boulder police detectives Melissa Hickman and Jane Harmer were in Tucson, Arizona this week to conduct prearranged interviews with Kim Ballard. This interview had been arranged through the Tucson Police Department. However, after waiting 4 hours to conduct the interview, Ms. Ballard declined to be interviewed. This was the second attempt by Boulder police to interview Ms. Ballard. There will be no additional attempts to interview her. According to Detective Commander John Eller, at this point, we would have to consider anything Ms. Ballard may say as suspect. We don't plan to set up any other interviews with her. Police are still requesting a fifth handwriting sample from Patricia Ramsey. This request is being coordinated through the Boulder District Attorney's Office. Boulder Police still asking for that fifth sample. They don't want to give it to you. Boulder Police are in the process of analyzing and evaluating over 13,000 pages of transcripts and various test results. During this phase of the investigation, there will be a core group of 5 Boulder police detectives, 2 to 4 attorneys from the Boulder DA's office, and 2 investigators from the DA's office dedicated to this case. So just a little update. Since January the 1st of 1997, 470 cases have been assigned to the Detective Division for follow-up. 364 have been completed. There are 111 cases that merit follow-up, which have not been assigned due to the Ramsey investigation. The investigation of last Friday's murder of Rudiger Jacob Sheen and other critical cases. So we are, yeah, this is 97. We are so invested in the Ramseys case. Let that sink in. We are so invested in the Ramseys case that we are neglecting this case because we're so focused on the Ramsey case. Bungling. But, the cops don't care anything. Adds Eller. We need to work other important cases and thus have reassigned some officers. Should there be a need for more assistance on the Ramsey investigation, we will call in officers as needed. They're trying to get it worked. They're trying to work it out. Okay, that's 34. Let's move on to 41. And again, this is just me skipping over. This is on the internet. It's available. It's not special. I'm not some special person. Trust me. I'm not. 41, did I say? Okay, so this is what I wanted to see. So in total expenditures related to the Ramsey homicide for 1996 and 1997 so far, $163K. I think that's what my notes say. $163K. Yeah. That's all I wanted to talk about that on, and then this kind of on September 26th. So we're at the back of the year. September 4th. Oh, I did go through a lot. Okay, I did go through a lot. So August, September. We're into this September. Because of blatant misstatements contained in recent news media coverage, Boulder Police Chief Tom Colby feels compelled to clear up what appears to be much confusion regarding the three outside attorneys asked by the Boulder Police to serve counsel to them regarding their work. Okay, so yeah, they bought in some people. As stated in the Boulder Police Department news release attached on August 1st of 1997, these three individuals, Richard N. Bayer of Sherman and Howard LLC, Daniel S. Hoffman of McKenna and Cuneo, and Robert N. Miller of LaBeouf, Lamb and Green and McCrae LLP, were approached by the Boulder Police Department. According to Chief Colby, these three attorneys were asked by our department if they would be interested in counseling members of our team. As a result, all three have worked diligently with us over the past several months. After being invited to participate, a meeting to discuss their assistance was held at the police department. In attendance at that meeting was Chief Colby, Commander Eller, and the entire police team investigating the JonBenét Ramsey murder. At that meeting, Mr. Miller and Mr. Hoffman opened by making a full disclosure to everyone present about their relationship with the law firm of Hatton, Morgan, and Foreman. Not a single member of the police team believed that the relationship presented any ethical problems or conflicts of interest. And so that would be a conflict of interest, is that if you are working with John Ramsey's lawyer, you might be telling them everything that we're doing, and we don't need that. But the police didn't believe that it would be a conflict of interest. I would think it would be conflict of interest personally myself, but they're saying it's not. So again, they interviewed the Ramsey investigator, and said it's not a problem. We're willing to talk to them, willing to interview them, get what they know. But we're also willing to work with people who could potentially leak information to the Ramsey camp because they have a relationship with the Ramsey attorneys. But we don't think that's going to be the case. We are operating in good faith that you won't do that. Being trusting when they don't need to. I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying this is another way in which they allowed the Ramseys to slip through, because all I see is Southern hospitality consistently over and over again. All I see is Southern manners on display over and over again, giving you the benefit of the doubt because we believe that your daughter has been murdered and we want to respect you. Okay. As the Boulder City attorney was later drafting a formal letter for their agreement, Indeed, the investigating team was pleased and excited about having assistance of three such highly qualified and experienced lawyers. No surprises, said Kobe. As the Boulder City attorney was later drafting a formal letter for the agreement, the relationship between the attorneys and the Haddon law firm was once again fully disclosed. He did not believe there was any conflict of interest. So we were meeting with people. Everybody's on the same page. According to Kobe, during the last 2 months, these three extremely competent lawyers have provided a great deal of time and valuable advice and counsel to the Ramsey investigation team, and on a voluntary pro bono basis. Instead of criticism, these three talented professionals deserve praise for their commitment to the community and their civic contribution. So we got these guys on the book for free. Okay. Page 48. Let's move through it. '45, 46. A lot of good information in here, but I'll keep going. Okay, let's start with this. December 5, approaching a year after JonBenét. Good morning. Here in support with me today are investigators that make up our investigative team. They are Sergeant Tom Wickman, Detective Tom Trujillo, Detective Steve Thomas, Detective Jane Harmer, Detective Ron Gosage, Detective Kim Stewart, Detective Carrie Weinheimer, and Detective Michael Everett. The purpose of today's news conference is to provide an update on the investigation into the JonBenét Ramsey homicide and to put the rest, some of the speculation that has occurred. So again, the police are updating the public. Again, more updates on what they're doing. The purpose of today's news conference is to provide an update on investigation. As you know, the investigative team was restructured approximately 9 weeks ago and is now operating out of the police department under my direction. Two of my objectives are to keep the team focused and to move the case forward to a point at which a decision can be made. I am very pleased with the progress we have made in meeting those objectives. During these past 9 weeks, we have taken the time necessary to review information and evidence that has been gathered to date. A review of the case was necessary for two reasons. Number one, to provide me the opportunity to become familiar with the facts of the case, and number two, to have an understanding of what still needs to be accomplished and to know where to go from here. It became clear additional work is still ahead. First, we have reviewed and updated a case management task list to identify and assign tasks that need to be completed as part of this investigation. Not organized at all. I don't see it. That task list currently consists of 72 items. Of those 72 items, 28 have already been completed and about a dozen or so others are in the process of being completed. Of the remaining task lists items, some are in the process and others are yet to be started. It is important to understand that this is an evolving list, and sometimes it grows as additional information is uncovered. Okay. Investigation often leads to additional investigation. With the complexities involved in this case and the number of people that have been interviewed, it is easy to understand how time consuming an investigation of this nature can be. Some examples of the tasks that have been recently completed. My God. Thank you for the transparency. Whoa. The re-interviewing of some significant witnesses. So we're circling the wagon, going again. Additional consultation with forensic experts. We have reviewed close to 200 videotapes that were taken from the Ramsey home. We have also completed a review of the computer files taken from the Ramsey home. We have completed a review of all trace evidence gathered in the case and have identified some additional testing that is needed. We are in the process of getting this testing completed. However, most of this work must be completed by outside agencies. When this occurs, it takes time to get results back, sometimes weeks or even months. We continue to review all information and tips that are received. Some examples of tasks that are yet to be done. They are the following. The re-interviewing of other identified significant witnesses and neighbors, the collection and analysis of additional evidentiary items, the completion of all forensic analysis. One of the most important tasks yet to do is the re-interviewing of some family members, specifically Mr. and Ms. Ramsey and their son, Burke Ramsey. We have made a formal request for these interviews and expect this to be completed in the near future. So This is on our list to do. As we are circling the wagons, we have already re-interviewed some significant witnesses. And what we hope to do is we're putting you guys on notice just in case y'all can hear us, John and Patsy. We want to re-interview you, and we want to re-interview your son. So we have made a formal request just in case it sounds like we're saying that we have not requested this. Just in case it sounds like we're saying that we're not. We're actually, just in case it sounds like we haven't followed up on this yet, we actually have. We have made a formal request for these interviews. Well, we're just now waiting for you to get back to us to let us know that you're interested in talking to us. We're confident that once all of our identified tasks are complete, we will be in a position to make a decision in this case as to the next steps. There are several options. We could seek an arrest and prosecution. We could ask grand jury to investigate, or we could inactivate the case until some more information comes up. What direction we will take will depend on the facts of the case as they are developed and on the level of cooperation received from witnesses. While I cannot give you an estimate on how long it will be until we reach this point, I can tell you that we're going to be focused aggressively on moving forward in the investigation. Regardless of what has happened in the past, we're looking forward to solving this case. Our investigative team is dedicated, they're committed, they're positive in their approach. I've been very impressed with the work that they have done and continue to do, and greatly appreciate their dedication. So somebody's proud of them. I would also like to take this time to say that since my assignment to this investigation, the relationship with the DA's office has been positive and professional. I've had regular contact and conversations with Pete Hofstrom. There goes Pete Hofstrom. They continue to provide counsel and advice in this investigation, and it has been very helpful. I've been impressed with the commitment and dedication of the DA's office and appreciate the help that they have provided. Let me also say that we have not submitted a case for prosecution, nor have we prepared an arrest warrant. The investigation is still ongoing, and we are still making progress. So, just in case you're wondering who we're talking about, Boulder police investigators assigned to the Ramsey case. Commander Mark Beckner, 41, managing the case, served in the BPD 19 and a half years. Ramsey investigators are listed in order introduced by Commander Beckner. Detective Tom Whitman, 44, been with the police department 19 years. Tom Trujillo, 36, been here for 12. Steve Thomas, 35, been here for 7. Jane, 35, been here for 11. Ron, 31, been here for 5. Kim, 37, been here for 7.5. Detective Weinheimer, 33, been here for 7.5, but I got 11 years in the game. 10 years in the game. 12 years in the game before this. So, just so y'all know, stop playing with me. Detective Michael Everett, 33, has served with the BPD for 10 years. Is this on my notes? I don't think it is. 51 is. The Boulder Police Department has received written communication through John and Patsy Ramsey's counsel that John and Patsy will not submit to a second interview with investigators under the reasonable conditions set by investigators. The Boulder Police Department's position in requesting the second interview has been clear and straightforward. There are questions the police have that are related to the clarifications of previous statements and questions related to information that were not available during the first interviews. You just not gonna come interview? You just gonna tell us no? How? So we just made a statement that we're trying to move forward, and part of the process in moving forward and being able to make a decision is dependent on everybody cooperating. And here we have John and Patsy Ramsey saying, no, you got one interview. That's it. And the cops are like, well, we just want to clarify some things. No, I don't want to clarify anything with you. No, not doing it. Dang. We just want to clarify some things. According to the latest communication from the Ramseys counsel, if the police department wants further assistance in solving the crime from John and Patsy Ramsey, the police will have to show good faith first by allowing the Ramseys to review the evidence in this case. This is unacceptable to police investigators. To allow such disclosure could severely hamper the effectiveness of the investigation and damage the reliability of information provided by the witnesses and potential suspects. To do so would also be contrary to accepted investigative protocols and something the police have not done for any other witness or suspect in this case. The Ramseys counsel again offered to have John and Patsy Ramsey only answer written questions. This is also unacceptable to police and well beyond reasonable investigative processes. I want that to simmer just for a little bit. We were reading the Missing Innocents report with Anne Louise Bardock from Vanity Fair. And she was saying that they were requesting the evidence that the cops have in this case. Steve Thomas was telling you that they were asking them for evidence in this case. They were asking to review the evidence. When I do my video on Hal Haddon, it will become clear that this is his way of doing things. This is a Hal Haddon tactic. This is how they go about winning cases. This is not random. This is a method. This is by design. Keep the client away from the cops and only respond to what you know. I do not want to sit here and be peppered with questions. I will allow you to ask several questions. I will do my research. I will coordinate. And I will get back to you with those questions. That's the only thing so this is the second time that the Ramseys have asked for this. They got it the first time, but this is the second time they're asking for it again. Is this cooperative to you? Would you call this cooperative? Would you call this cooperative? Fully cooperative? When you have other witnesses who have come and they have spoken to the cops, they have re-interviewed some people, key witnesses, significant witnesses. But yet somehow the Ramseys are saying, we're not coming in. You won't come in for JonBenét? You won't come in for your daughter? Police bungling. The spin. They will spin it and they will tell you that the cops are not doing their job. And that has been the case that they have been saying for 30 years that John continues to put out there in the media. And the cops are requesting interviews and these guys are not coming out to play. And they somehow in some way are have turned people against the cops to say, how dare you question the parents in the murder of their child? How dare you? Who are you? What kind of an animal are you? That's what they're saying about the cops. This is crazy. In an attempt to remain polite, I would just say this is crazy. This is absolutely wild. You know we can't give you the evidence. You know that. But they are making odd requests. Give me all the evidence. You know we can't do that. That will compromise the cops keep things in like most all cases that I'm aware of. They keep things to hold for them so that nobody knows, so we can really find the killer. And you're asking for all of the evidence. You are bold. Because if you give it to me, then I can answer I already know what you're going to say. I already know what you're going to say. I'm ready for every question. I can stop and think of every question that you're going to ask me. This would prevent me from getting in an interview with Lou Smith and Lou Smith asking me about pineapples. This would prevent me from getting in that interview and being like, well, I don't know. Did you ask Patsy? Ask Patsy. Well, I don't know. Could it have been anything else? No, it's pineapples. No question, says Lou. Well, I don't know. We had snow crab the other night. Could it have been snow crab? But then that leads you to have to think on the fly. Now, doesn't it? Now I got to think on the fly, and thinking on the fly will cause me to ask questions like this. What's the time frame for that pineapple in the digestive tract? That's what John asked in the interview. What's the time frame for that pineapple in the digestive tract? Why do you want to know the time frame for the pineapple in the digestive tract, John? Could it be the case that John is doing a little thinking? And now John is like, if you can tell me the time frame of the pineapple in the digestive tract, I can place it. If you try to fight me and say after 10 p.m., I got to try to switch into convince you out of it mode. But if you can tell me when, and I'm going to do this anyway, but I can try to shift it back closer to at Fleet White's house so that the pineapples become a non-factor. And I can start making you question, and I can make you doubt what it was. I can say, well, at Fleet White's house, we had snow crab. It's not snow crab. Oh, it's not a problem because they had other snacks. They had apples. Wasn't apples. They had grapes. Wasn't grapes. They had nuts. Wasn't nuts. I can go down the line because I think he was going down the line. I can go down the line on that. And then when you just, and Lou Smith is just kind of sitting there looking at you. He's your friend. But Lou Smith is just kind of sitting there looking at you, saying, we need an answer to this question. I don't know, but we need an answer to this question. It gets me out of that awkward position of having to figure out an answer to that question, because what John started to do was he started to talk in circles, number one. Number two, but he started to talk and stop without a resolution to the sentence. He would say, well, I don't know. And he would sit there and look, I don't know what it could be. And Lou Smith would just sit there. Lou Smith would just sit there and look at him. Got to find an answer to this. Gosh, I don't know what it could be. That's a tactic. You take the pressure off of yourself and you stop talking and just let them talk. Make it uncomfortable. Let the silence be uncomfortable, because they're in their minds. They're spiraling because they're like, man, he's seeing right through me. Maybe he doesn't believe me. Maybe I'm not being convincing enough. And so I start trying to be more convincing, and maybe I think I'm over convincing. I'm overdoing it, and I got to spin back. Just let him talk. Look at him, let him talk. Got to find an answer. Well, I don't know. And then you start to say random things because you know where you want to get back to. I know where I want to be. I just don't know how to get back there. I know where I want to end up, but I just don't know how to get back there, because the entire point is to divert attention. And so I might say something really random, as in, they used to go in the pantry and get cereal. Cereal? John? I didn't ask you about cereal. I didn't. I asked you nothing about cereal. That prevents Patsy, who is probably more on the scale of more likely to be caught off guard. That's why Linwood was protecting her. That keeps Patsy from being caught off guard. You ask her something and you hit her with a haymaker. Boom. What about these boots that Burke said he was wearing and had a compass on them? Oh, no boots. What boots? And then Linwood is sitting there chilling. What about the boots? And Linwood is up. Cause Linwood is like, hey, I ain't wearing no boots. And he's looking at Patsy, and Patsy's frantic. Boots? Lynn, get up here. Uh-oh. And then Patsy and John are like, you'll never do that to me again. You will never get me out of place again. It ain't gonna happen. Trust me, you made your last mistake. Asking me hard-hitting questions like that, you caught me off guard. I promise you, I won't be caught off guard again. I won't. Next time we're going back. That was they probably got back to Had Morgan and Freeman and said, that was a disaster. We'll never do it again. Howard was probably like, man, we got more work to do. We will go back to telling them that they need to send things in writing. Probably some jitters when they got back to the attorney's office. So essentially, we ain't coming back. Don't ask us to come back there for no reclarification. So that's really hampering the investigation. According to Commander Beckner, I'm disappointed in the position they have taken. I expected the Ramseys to agree to another interview because I believe that their public and private statements about their desire to do whatever was necessary to help resolve the case. While this development will certainly hinder our investigation, we continue to make progress and will not give up in our efforts to find JonBenét's killer. Furthermore, Beckner stated, it's even more important now for anyone who has relevant information in this case to come forward and help us resolve this. The police are still wanting to receive clothing requested from the Ramseys in November of 1997 and for a final decision on whether they will be allowed to interview Burke. So they're trying to get clothing. They saw on TV that the Ramseys were talking crazy. So the police are sitting there watching you talk crazy, seeing you talk and completely act a fool. That's what we're sitting there watching. But you don't really want to talk about it. You just want to go on TV and pop off. You don't really want to talk about nothing. You see. Let somebody talk and then call their bluff. You're doing all that talking. Let's throw down right now. See what they say. And if they back off and be like, no, I mean, because we can say anything in front of the TV cameras, but what you gonna say when we? Okay, well, let's get in front of we got another camera that you can get in front of. Got some other microphones you could talk to. Police microphones. Let's make it official. These things that you say on camera, we can use those in court and stuff like that, but these people here, they can't ask you no questions. They can ask you a question and you don't owe them anything. So you can tell them whatever you want to tell them. And you can walk off and be like, I'm done answering questions. Let's sit down. Let's have a conversation. Let's put it in an official capacity. Because even though you can walk out in a police interview, what will it look like if you get up and walk out in a police interview based on a certain question that was asked? That's going to keep you under the umbrella of suspicion right here. Police bungling 101. Keep the pressure on them. Bungle your way. Keep the pressure on them. We still need stuff from them. The investigation task list described by Beckner on December 5th continues to be working. 78 items. We've done 38. Another 9 are near completion. Additional 5 will be completed. Of the 26 remaining items, some are ongoing and some long-term tasks that the team need to follow up on, such as re-interviewing significant witnesses and following up based on. So like we're having to, what's happening is they're having to go around the Ramseys. They're having to circle. They're having to, when the Ramseys say no, the direct line is the Ramseys. But when the Ramseys say no, they have to go to other people and check. But what we really need is the direct source, and they're not getting that. Recent media reports that a flashlight had been lost and recently found are incorrect. The flashlight recovered from the Ramseys' home was taken to the CBI for forensic analysis. After the completed analysis, it was returned to the custody of the police department. It's never been missing. Year-end investigation. because this is on January 16th of 98. So we're moving into the next year. By year end, we've tallied everything. The Boulder Police Department expenditures to date for the Ramsey investigation total $219K. 1996 overtime, travel, investigative expenses total 21, and through the end of 97, overtime, travel and investigative expenses totaled $197K. These expenditures did not include on-duty costs of the investigation. I know it don't. We ain't talking about regular 40 hours. We talking about overtime. We ain't even included anything else. Page 51. Go to 56. Boy, that's crazy. Man, that's crazy. I cannot believe they said no. That is wild. What are people going to think? I guess you don't care. Okay, here we go. You guys are familiar with this event. June the 2nd, 1998. Boulder police detectives today concluded their presentation of the Ramsey investigation to Boulder District Attorney Alex Hunter. The presentation was made by the 7 detectives who have worked on the JonBenét Ramsey investigation: Case Supervisor Sergeant Tom Wickman, Detective Tom Trujillo, Detective Steve Thomas, Detective Jane Harmer, Detective Ron Gosich, Detective Carrie Weinheimer, and Detective Michael Everett. I think, yeah. At the conclusion of the presentation, Commander Beckner said, "This has been a very productive 2 days. After exhaustively reviewing the 30,000 pages of the investigation, we have identified 24 investigative topics which were covered during the presentation. Some of the areas we covered include forensic information, analysis of evidence, and what we've learned from the ransom note and the hundreds of different items found in the house, what was not found in the house, and the evidence supporting or not supporting an intruder. We discussed the interviews we've conducted and the people we've looked at as suspects. And we've covered a lot of ground in a very complex case. And to this date, they've only gotten one interview with the police. One interview session. One. In a full year. So let's be clear. In a full year following the death of JonBenét, John and Patricia Ramsey only gave the police one formal face-to-face sit-down interview. If you want to count the other one of writing statements as an interview, be my guest. That's bullcrap. One interview. You gave one interview all year. Marinate on that point. One interview is crazy. One. I am reminded. I guess that's fine. One interview. Commander Beckner said, "We have made a very strong case for a grand jury and believe the grand jury will give us the best opportunity to find the final pieces needed in this case. We have been and will continue to be committed to working closely with the DA's office to complete this investigation." No. Hold on. This is page 56. Hold on. There was no 56. Here we go. Yeah, I forgot to go over this. This is on page 45. Did I write this in my notes? Dang, why would I miss this? Okay, so we're just kind of talking about coming from here on October 10th of 1997. Talking about adding additional people to the case. I've made an assessment for more necessary. I made an assessment that more necessary resources after being briefed by the team. Blah, blah, blah. They had a meeting with FBI in Quantico. At those meetings, we gained confirmation of the quality of work which has been done to date. We also had time to get really clear about the work that still needs to be done. Signing Commander Mark Beckner to work full time. And so I think this is Chief Kobe is remarking to the media, we're working with the FBI in Quantico. And so Quantico FBI is saying everything y'all are doing is right. This is what we would do. Keep doing what you're doing. Getting confirmation. So it's like, oh, they wouldn't let anybody help them. John, the FBI is with the police. They think you did it. They think you need to, it warrants more follow-up. And so Commander Eller has split his time between the case, blah, 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 and the investigative bureau. Skipping ahead because I want to get to this point so we can do a timestamp. And this is October of 1997, so you can know exactly when. October 10th of 1997, so you can know exactly when this what I'm about to tell you happened. What is the relationship between the district attorney's office and the Boulder Police Department? As of October 10th of 1997, our relationship is strained. In the criminal justice system, there are often tensions between police and prosecutors. This is to be expected. People often disagree. From the beginning, there have been disagreements between our guys and their guys. And we have primarily disagreed on two things. First of which, the approach to the investigation with respect to dealing with all possible suspects. One side of the investigation has favored a hard line on pursuing this matter. The other has been supportive in a less antagonistic approach. Both of these approaches are legitimate. They both set the tone and are workable. Boulder County's approach to most matters over the years has been to follow the second. So what was the first is the first has been in the approach. The first has been in the approach to this investigation with respect to dealing with all possible suspects. One side of the investigation has favored a hard line on pursuing this matter. The other has been supportive of a less antagonistic approach. Okay, so the approach is like we're dealing with how. So in the first thing we disagree on is how we deal with suspects and going about suspects and interviewing suspects and talking to suspects and stuff like that. That's been the disagreement. One person says, it's a hard line. We stay on these guys. We pursue. The other team says, don't be so hard on them. Don't pursue them so much. Just do something else is what's being said. So both approaches are legitimate. Boulder County's approach to most matters over the years has been less antagonistic, and it has worked quite well for this community. In this case, there was and still is a difference of opinion about which is more appropriate. And what they're saying is the DA is holding strong and saying, let's be less antagonistic. Let's not target the Ramseys so much, I believe is what they're saying. But the cops are saying, no, we need to stick to it. But I believe in the other cases, though. If we look at the differences, because people might be like, oh, see, this is the problem. No, let's consider why they are so antagonistic, I guess we would use the word, in pursuing the Ramseys, because they have looked at other people. But you would be antagonistic in pursuing the Ramseys. It would seem that way because you don't stop talking about them. Why? Because you are the only people who are not cooperating. In 1 year, in a full year, we've only talked to you one time about the death of your daughter. What? That's why we're and so in that way, it's not antagonistic. It's just that you haven't told us anything. We have plenty of questions. Duh. And so that's why the Boulder police are like, hey, let's stick to it. Let's stay on it. Still a difference of opinion. The second major area of disagreement has been over the management of the media, whereas both the district attorney and I believe strongly in being open to the press. In this case, we have had differing opinions on the proper course, how we approach the media. My position, as you know, has been to be very close with the information. The DA has felt the need to be more communicative. Again, both approaches are viable. Our difference of opinion on this matter has added to the strain. These differences are normal. So how we deal with the media. In this case, we've had differing opinions. I want to be very close with the information, and DA wants to tell everybody what he knows, essentially is what he's saying. So Tom Colby is like, I don't really like to tell people what we're doing too crazy. I don't like to be too crazy with the information. Like we can talk about anything else, but when we're talking about the information of the case, I don't want people knowing where we are. I don't. Because if I tell y'all, like, then you're going to get your John Mark Cars and your Gary Olivas. They're going to be like, they're going to read stuff and then, you're telling me what I told you. You're admitting to a crime based off what I told you. We don't want to do that. And so where was I? I was on 56. So we'll jump back to 56. Yes. But I just wanted to highlight the point of strain. So anyways, but they're trying to work through it. They did a presentation with the DA, as Steve Thomas's letter has told us. So this is backing up Steve Thomas's letter already. So Steve Thomas is backing up the Vanity Fair article, and the police reports or the police updates are backing up Steve Thomas. And what I mean by that is that when we look at the Vanity Fair article, we can refer to Steve Thomas and say, okay, we have a cop, we have an officer sort of stating that these are facts. And then we have Tom Colby, which is the police chief, coming back and saying, I'm supporting this. These are the things that we had to endure as police going through this thing. I always love to hear the second approach because I know what we hear from John and Patsy, but what do we hear from the police? And sometimes it seems like the police aren't saying anything, but here extensively, we have the cops speaking to us and saying, this is where we are. We're not trying to hide anything, but this is what we're doing and why. Commander Beckner gets on the case. He's been assigned to the case. And so over Commander Eller is gone. He's been removed at some point in the process. It tells you in this. I read over it, but that's how I know. But he's been removed to give you some perspective of the enormity of the investigation and the effort that has been put forth in solving this case. Let me give you some stats. Since we began our investigation in December, we have formally interviewed 590 people. John will tell you they haven't interviewed anyone except for the Ramseys. Some more than once. We have utilized 64 outside experts and consultants. John will tell you they didn't ask for any help. We have investigated 68 people as possible suspects, plus an additional 54 convicted offenders as possible suspects. We have logged 1,058 items of evidence in the property. Over 500 pieces of evidence have been tested through federal, state, and private labs. But John will tell you that they're sitting on the stuff, not testing everything and twiddling their fingers. 500 pieces of evidence. We conducted the investigation in 17 states. That's what the update was in 2024. 17 and 19 states. We have received approximately 3,400 letters and 700 phone tips, and we have spent approximately 22,000 hours investigating this case. Through the 28th of May, we have spent $282,000 in overtime. What you say, 282? 282, 180. 22K. Yeah. That seems to indicate that they're paying an additional $12. An additional $12. They're paying an additional $12 an hour to get this thing solved. $282,000 since October of 1990, if I'm calculating or thinking about that right. Since October of 97, the investigative team has identified 94 tasks, 67 of which have been completed. We still got 27 on the list. Some will require the subpoena authority of a grand jury to complete. The following are some questions asked and Commander Beckner's answers after the conclusion of the presentation to the DA's office today. Good. So we can see what you guys talked about. So these are some of the things the DA asked them. Could you summarize why you would like this case to go to the grand jury? The answer is there are still interviews we would like to do with people who are not cooperating with the investigation. They talking about the Ramseys. So they're trying to force the Ramseys to comply through the subpoena process of the grand jury. They're trying to ask Alex Hunter This is crazy. This is a strain if I've ever seen one. It's, you know, when you fight somebody under the table and you're like, oh, we're lightly pitter pattering and, you know, whatever. Bruh. What's happening here is that the police are saying we've been as nice as we're going to be. Now, when can we expect payment? We have been as nice as we can be. And John and Patsy Ramsey said you can expect payment anytime you want. But that don't mean you're going to get it. Tag DL Hughley. I'm not going to take his work in disrespect. But anyways, could you summarize why we need to go to the grand jury? This is what the DA is asking. DA, don't you think we need to go to the grand jury? We're still looking for answers. And Chief Beckner says, Commander Beckner says, well, some people are not cooperating with the investigation, which means, hint, hint, DA, I want you specifically to subpoena them through the grand jury investigative process. So here's where the police, we talked a little bit about what the DA is going to use, the DA used the process for. But now we're talking about what the police were going to try to use the process for. Make them talk to us. We're tired of asking. We're tired of being nice. We're tired of having good Southern hospitality and Southern manners. Make them do it. I don't have any more patience, because what kind of Southern manners is this coming from Patsy and John? It's not. Y'all are not complying. Y'all got the lawyers boarding up houses and I'm not just figuratively boarding up houses and getting in the way. We can't come to the door. Make them talk. Have you now turned the Ramsey case over to the DA office? Answer is, I would say that it is more of a team approach with the DA's office now. Do you know who did it? I have an idea who did it. Do you still want to question John and Patsy Ramsey? Yes, the Ramseys are among those that we want to question. DA, why are you asking me that question? Let's be a little bit more specific. You said you had some people that you wanted to talk to. Who are you talking about? What are some of the tasks you have left to complete? What's on your little list that you reported? There are additional evidence tests that we would like to do. What happens if it doesn't go to the grand jury? We'll make the best of it. How solid of a case do you have now? That's difficult to answer. Certainly circumstantial. could be stronger if we could talk to these people. And, you know, it's hard because you're a year out now. You know what I mean? Like you're a year and a half out now. Like it's going to be hard, man, to get anything, because we can get you a circumstance, which is what the grand jury found, circumstantial. How long do you expect the grand jury to take in this case? 3 to 6 months, I would say. How did Barry Scheck's comments help during this presentation? He helped us identify the strengths and weaknesses of the case, and he was able to offer the defense's perspective. Are there less people under the umbrella of suspicion now? There are certainly less people under the umbrella of suspicion now than there were in October. So essentially, we are whittling down to who we want to charge. We need this grand jury to clear up some of the circumstantial evidence. Do you think Alex Hunter will take the case to the grand jury? I think there's a good chance. Okay, so he did. He did take it. This is 56, 57. Okay, going into 56. August 6th of 98. Ramsey detective resigned. Statement from Boulder Police. Detective Steve Thomas today resigned from the Boulder Police Department. Detective Thomas was one of the 7 detectives working on the Ramsey investigation. It is with regret that I accept his resignation. His work and effort on the Ramsey case will always be appreciated. Unfortunately, in his resignation letter, Detective Thomas has chosen to criticize the progress of the Ramsey investigation and the role of the DA's office. This comes at a critical juncture in the investigation. I am disappointed that Steve felt the need to vent his frustration in the investigation. When I took over the Ramsey investigation last October, I acknowledged that this case was extremely complex and that disagreements were to be expected. Who's speaking? Chief Beckner. Oh, because Kobe is out. So Beckner has elevated. So he took over. So Beckner took over Eller's position, and then now he's taking over Kobe's position. I acknowledge that this case was complex. You know, disagreements are to be expected. However, we continue to work closely with the DA's office on completing the assigned tasks. I continue to have confidence in the investigative team and Special Prosecutor Michael Caine, and we are meeting with them almost on a daily basis. While we continue to pursue investigative tasks in the Ramsey case, I do not plan to assign another detective to the team to replace Detective Thomas. Detective Sergeant Wickman. The team leader has assured me the workload can be handled by the existing team members. Further on the comment of Detective Thomas's resignation would not be in the best interest of the investigation. Members of our office further met this morning to discuss the resignation submitted by Steve. We talked about responding in detail to the allegations present in the letter, but agreed that our primary responsibility is to gather sufficient evidence to prosecute JonBenét Ramsey homicide, and to further address these charges would only sidetrack the case. Police Chief Mark Beckner said, "As I said yesterday, we do not agree with Thomas's opinion that the case cannot be successfully concluded. In the 6 weeks that Thomas has been gone from the department, our agencies have worked closely together to complete additional interviews, prepare and submit additional evidence for testing, and review other investigative materials. We have not finished this investigation, and we will continue to work on this case pending a decision regarding convening the grand jury." October 11th of 1999. New release, and they're showing you everything that they've done in terms of the costs. And so we have to look at, they spent $21K. Oh my goodness. 3,900 hours of overtime. Do what? So we have one side saying spare no expense, and we have the other side saying, oh, we don't want to waste the taxpayers' money. So the cops are sparing no expense, and the DA is saying we don't want to waste the taxpayers' money. I mean, well, my God, the city has the budget. Do it. Why stop here? On duty salary, they included this now, $308K. 134 to add, about 440, 442, about 442 and some change. Almost half a mil. Then we add on a little bit more, and we get about half a mil that we spent our budget on. Or I'm sorry, we spent $500,000 on the Ramsey case in 1997. Did that stop us? No, we ramped things up. Said keep going, why not? 630, 1999 so far, we're still working. So in total, spent about 1.3 million on the Ramsey case. Page 60. Got a few more pages to go. 60, 63, 64. And so this is a statement on the grand jury when they finally released him a couple of days later. I want to first publicly thank, and this is coming from Chief Beckner, publicly thank the 12 citizens of this grand jury for their service to the community. Although by law, I can't comment on the work as it relates to the case, I'm grateful to the district attorney, Alex Hunter, for allowing the grand jury to investigate. Contrary to public perception, we have made progress in the case over the past 13 months because of the work of the grand jury. If you recall, when investigators asked for a grand jury in the spring of 1998, it was for the purpose, and you can start to feel the steam coming out of it. You're losing steam on the case. It was for the purpose of assisting us in our investigation. In this regard, it has been a successful grand jury. In this very low bar of saying we asked the DA to do what he should have done anyway, and he did it. In this regard, success. I want to also thank Mike Cain, Mitch Morrissey, and Bruce Levin for their hard work. If you remember, Mike Cain, Morrissey, and Levin were they caught Patsy off guard with that question about the shoes. There has been a great deal of speculation about the working relationship between the two offices. Let me just say that we have a great deal of respect for one another, and the working relationship on this case has never been better. Over the past 15 months, we have worked hand in hand with the prosecutors on this case and have been very pleased with how things have been handled. There has also been speculation that charges have not been filed in this case because of the reluctance on the part of the DA's office. In addition to Alex Hunter, we have had 3 experienced prosecutors working on this case. None of these prosecutors, in my opinion, would hesitate in taking the case to trial once the evidence is sufficient to do so. There has been speculation that charges have not been filed in this case. There's only been speculation, Chief, because he got up there on the podium and didn't say nothing. That's why there's speculation. The heck? The next obvious question is, and so basically saying that we don't have sufficient evidence to do so. So it took us a year to say it was circumstantial then and it's still circumstantial now. So what did you do? And as one grand juror commented and reported and said, what we were seeing, there was a disparity in what was being reported. What we saw in the courtroom was significantly different and less, I would say, based on if I understand what they're saying, it was less than what we were seeing in the news. So we just had to make a case on that. The next obvious question is, where do we go from here? From the police's perspective, this will remain an open and ongoing investigation. Contrary to public perception and the rampant speculation that the investigation is over, this case is not dead in the water. It actually is. I know you have grown tired of hearing this, but yes, we still have forensic evidence that we are working on. We are committed to not giving up on this investigation. Like any other open homicide, we will continue to process and test any evidence necessary, follow any reasonable leads that are developed. Anyone who's been in law enforcement can tell you of cases that finally come to resolution, often after many months in a year or years of investigation, and sometimes when you least expect it. That's what keeps us going. If you believe what some of the pundits are saying, you might think that the efforts are futile to keep trying. Those of us close to the case know better. We know that the right and just thing to do is to keep going. Quite frankly, Too much has been made of the conclusion of the grand jury. We have simply completed another phase of this difficult investigation. In addition to the possibility of new evidence developing, new forensic technology is then advancing at a rapid pace. As a result, cases that were once unsolvable have been solved. New technology in the last 2.5 years has helped us in the case. In this case, we never know what the next month, year, or several years will bring. As police chief, as police chief, there is something else I know I can count on, and that is the dedication of 4 investigators who have been on this case from the very beginning. These 4 individuals, as well as all members of the Boulder Police Department, are committed to finding a resolution in this case, and they will not be swayed from that commitment. Much has been made out of the alleged mistakes early in the case. Yes, there are things that we should have done differently and wish we would have done differently. Anytime a crime scene is disturbed, it creates a problem for the investigation. However, to say that mistakes have made this an unsolvable case is not accurate. Circumstances and evidence that raise questions for us today are not the result of a contaminated crime scene. Okay, so he's saying, contaminated crime scene had nothing to do with it. I know that this case has been frustrating for everyone, but I can assure you it's not been more frustrating than for the detectives who have worked full time on this case for almost 3 years. While we continue to be criticized, and by the way, they wanted to interview John and Patsy. I don't think John and Patsy were called for an interview. Burke was. John and Patsy were not. Let that sink in. Why, as much as we know about the grand jury process and what we've learned, why did you not call John and Patsy like Chief Beckner asked you to do? That is the most important thing. They didn't get to talk. The grand jury did not get to talk to John and Patsy Ramsey, and they still came back with an indictment. They didn't get to talk to the main people, and they still came back with an indictment. DA Hunter, why did you not call John and Patsy? You somehow will tell me that you didn't think it would be helpful to the investigation. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't read anywhere that he called them. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be corrected. If he did call them, point is gone. Point is dead in the water. But if you didn't, why didn't you? Blah, blah, blah. I would also like to say that while the intense scrutiny has not always been pleasant, there have been positives. We are not the same police department we were 3 years ago. As a result of learning from our experiences, we have taken steps to make some changes in how we operate. We have developed some new policies, procedures, adjusted some of our training, and made some changes in our detective section. And we have also developed a more open philosophy when dealing with the media. As a result of these changes, I believe that we are better prepared, better trained police department. So essentially, you're going to follow after DA Hunter. I must take a moment to thank local Boulder community for their support, city council, the city manager, and many citizens that have been understanding and supportive. In the end, all the media attention doesn't matter. All the speculation doesn't matter. Legal analysts who will find fault with the work that we've done, that don't matter. What matters is finding justice for JonBenét. To this day, 2 years and 9 months after her death, we are as intent on that objective as we were from day one. Okay, that's page 62. I need page 63, 64. I'm almost done. Yeah. 63 and 64. And they're talking about Steve Thomas's book. And I'm not going to read that, but this is page 62 if you wanted to see it. But I don't have that in my notes to talk about. Just him being highly critical and stuff like that of the investigation, and they're not going to respond to it. 63, statement from Police Beckner regarding polygraph tests in the Ramsey case. In recent weeks, John and Patsy Ramsey have publicly offered April 11th of 2000. The Vanity Fair article talked about Missing Innocence by Anne Louise Pardock, talked about how Jeff Merrick was asked to take a polygraph. And he said, yeah, I'll do it when John Ramsey does it. That was in 1997. We are in April of 2000. In recent weeks, John and Patsy Ramsey have publicly offered their willingness to take a polygraph examination. Oh. The Boulder Police Department, after the consultation and agreement with the Boulder County DA's office and the FBI, has decided to accept the Ramseys' offer. DA Alex Hunter now agrees that the polygraph exam would be worthwhile for the investigation. Arrangements have been made to conduct an exam in accordance with the conditions identified by John Ramsey in late March of 2000. We have notified the Ramseys through their attorneys and await for a reply to schedule the exam date. April 11th of 2000, John Ramsey in March got the ball rolling, and he will tell you we got the ball rolling on the polygraph. This is 3 years later that this man brings up a polygraph after the grand jury comes back with circumstantial evidence. And they have not been questioned in the grand jury case. That's when he wants to take a polygraph. You are gung-ho and giggling and laughing at the press conference of your polygraph results when people ask you, why did it take you so long? And you're like, we did it. Timing is everything. We know the further you get away from a crime, that's why the first 48 is so important. The further you get away from the crime, the harder it is to collect evidence, to collect information. People may have gone on. They may have died. They may be moved on. They may be more reluctant. They may have forgotten some of the facts of the case. Some of those things might not be fresh anymore. And now you want to take a test when you have the wind at your back. You have come clear. Why did you not call the Ramseys, Alex Hunter? And now you want to jump up here and say, oh, let's take the test. April 11th, let's remember that. Page 64. April 25th. No polygraph exam scheduled for John and Patsy Ramsey. After several discussions, John came up with it. John, this was your idea. This was your idea. You said, let's do the exams. These are my terms. John came up with the terms. And after we came up with the terms, April 11th, April 25th, Two weeks later, after several discussions with the Boulder police, an attorney for John and Patsy Ramsey today informed Police Chief Mark Beckner that the Ramseys will not take polygraph examinations. On April 11th, the Boulder Police Department accepted John and Patsy Ramsey's public offer to take polygraph examinations regarding the death of their daughter, JonBenét Ramsey. The department agreed to conditions as set forth by John Ramsey in a March 23rd television interview as follows. So John Ramsey jumped on TV on March 23rd and he said, we will take an exam as long as it's talking like a big shot. See, this is the second time they have called John Ramsey's bluff. This is the second time he done hopped on TV and said, anytime, any place, we'll interview you anytime, any place, wherever you want. And then they got off television and said, oh, do it at my attorney's office. And we can only do it for an hour and we can't be separate. Oh, I guess we look bad. Maybe we should do it separate, but it still has to be at the attorney's office and our attorneys have to be there. And so they come again and they call his bluff. He jumped on television and said, we'll do it anywhere, anytime, any place. But it has to be conducted by an independent examiner from the Boulder Police Department. Or, no, I'm sorry, it has to be conducted from an examiner independent from the BPD. It has to be in Atlanta, and the results of the exam made public. Boy, you talking big, boy. And the BPD is like, hey, it ain't nothing to us. Set it up. It ain't nothing to us to go get somebody independent. We've been talking with FBI the entire time. Go set it up. Set it up, please. Absolutely. It ain't nothing for me. Set it up. According to your conditions. Hey, we done been to Roswell a couple of times. We done went all the way to Charlevoix. We done spent about $1.3 million on this case. Set it up. Is that all you want? Set it up. Do it in Atlanta. Why you can't do it in Colorado? Fine. You want it. We come to you and let's make it public. Let's make it public. I ain't trying to convict you or nothing. Make it public. It is what it is. Boulder police arranged to have FBI specialists conduct the examination. FBI specialists. We're going to bring in the FBI. Oh, but we're going to bring in the big guns on you. Conduct the examination in Atlanta. After consulting with others in law enforcement, Boulder police selected the FBI polygraphers specifically for their international reputation in criminal polygraphs and their independence from the Boulder Police Department. Other factors that weighed heavily in selecting the FBI were the specialist training received by FBI examiners, the quality control implemented in their examinations, and the supervisory oversight that is provided for every exam. So they said, let's do it. But as we saw on the behavioral panel, Patsy's response was, it's my understanding that we can use our own specialists because they train you. That may be fine. That may be fine. But you said, set it up. See, you can't call me and say, pick lunch, pick where we meeting for dinner. And then when you get there, you be like, I don't like that. You had an opportunity to set it up. You could have picked anywhere you wanted to go for lunch. You could have picked anywhere you wanted to go for dinner. I asked you anywhere, and you said anywhere. So if I pick burgers again, you're not going to have a problem with me picking burgers again. Nope. Set it up. I'm just telling you right now, I'm going to pick burgers and we're probably going to go to Five Guys. Set it up. And we get to Five Guys and we meet outside the door of Five Guys. You ready to eat some burgers? On second thought. Nah. I'm not in the mood for burgers today. What? I haven't eaten all day. I was looking specifically forward to me and you having some time together over burgers and a shake. Where you going? Run. Run, 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 run. Oh, run. Run as fast as you can. Run as fast as you can. You done got on television talking tough. And when somebody calls your bluff, you're up and you're stuck. Boulder police have arranged for FBI specialists who have an international reputation. Not talking about somebody from LA. Oh, the guy from LA that we're picking, he taught your guy, or he learned from the guy who taught these guys. And he has so many hours. Yeah, I guess he might. But how many hours do these guys have? Anyways, during subsequent discussions, Ramsey attorney Lynn Wood told the Boulder police that the Ramseys were reluctant to take the exam administered by the FBI as they believed the involvement of the FBI and the FBI laboratories in the JonBenét Ramsey murder investigation prevented them from being independent examiners. I am confused. I thought you said independent from the Boulder Police Department. That's what you said, right? Conducted in Atlanta, made public. Because you didn't do it, right? You had nothing to do with it, right? So let's run it. You already been cleared by the, well, not cleared, but you know what I'm saying. You've been essentially cleared by the grand jury. Well, not the grand jury. You've been kind of cleared by the DA, right? Ain't got nothing to worry about, baby. we in. We good. Ain't got nothing to worry about. I'm scared that the FBI and their laboratories. Wait a minute. Lynn Wood said the Ramseys are reluctant to take an exam administered by the FBI as they believe the involvement of the FBI and the FBI laboratories in the. I thought we were going to do it in Atlanta. We can call somebody from Atlanta. Okay. As a compromise to the Ramseys' concern, the FBI agreed to assign an examiner who had no prior knowledge or involvement in the Ramsey case. And the Boulder Police Department agreed not to be involved in selecting the specific FBI examiners. This did not satisfy the Ramseys' concerns with the FBI involvement, and the Boulder Police Department is not willing to further compromise on this issue, so there will be no polygraph exams at this time. Obviously, we're disappointed that the Ramseys have declined to take the polygraph exams after very publicly saying that they would, Beckner said. However, our offer still stands should the Ramseys decide to change their position. After very publicly saying that they would. Sometimes you say things and probably shouldn't have said them. Sometimes you talk big and you probably shouldn't talk big at all. Probably you should be quiet when it comes to dealing with things that you know nothing about. We went out and we said, look, we don't have to get the people who are familiar with the case. Now, see, when I was reviewing, when I was reviewing the Ramseys, this is what I'm saying. That's why you got to read both sides. Because if you just listen to John Ramsey, you'll be lost in la la land and you'll think that the cops weren't doing anything. But when I was listening to him, it seemed like the cops were just rejecting offers. They didn't want to move. They weren't flexible. They didn't want to do anything. And it seemed like they were trying to control the process a little bit. But here we see a very flexible police department. Actually, we see a very consistent story of a flexible police department. Been very flexible in this case. Very flexible. Stepping away from the norm and saying, man, we're going to go and get somebody that is not even on the team. But what John really meant to say was, what he didn't say on the interview, and what he really meant to say was, let us pick the independent person. And then we'll be fine. But see, this is the thing though. If you remember, as far as I can remember, they took the test 2 times. I've heard 3. I've heard they took it 3 times, and that's even worse. We looked on this channel. I can't remember what video it was, but we saw it, and it's on the internet though. Everything I find is on the internet, some way, shape, or form. But and it's an article that talks about the questions, by like the Daily Camera, the Denver Post, or something like that. The exact questions, or the Rocky Mountain News, or something like that. The exact questions that they asked Patsy and John in the polygraph exam. And they essentially asked them the same questions the second time around as they did the first time around. Now, John did all of this. Let's put this in context. John did all of this. Went on TV talking tough and said, set it up. And the police said, we can set it up if you need to. And then John said, but I don't want to use your boys. I'll use my boys. And failed. Let me use the correct terminology. The results on the first exam were inconclusive off of your boy. Off of the dude that you chose. You chose this person. Inconclusive off of the guy you chose that you said was the most impartial, inconclusive off of the person you chose. You just can't get away. John and Patsy, it was our desire. You only gave us one interview, and we still have circumstantial evidence that you got something to do with this. We went to the grand jury, and you didn't testify, but we still came back with an indictment. You went to the polygraph. You jumped on television talking about let's do the polygraph, and your results, and you chose the person after arguing with me about who you wanted it to be, somebody without any knowledge of the case or any knowledge of the evidence, as impartial as they could be. The one you chose and said, this is the one I want to use. You got to the restaurant, if I could put it in those terms. You said, I don't want burgers anymore. Let's go get pizza. Let's go get pizza at Pizza Hut. Nah, I want to get pizza at Pizza Hut. Let me choose a place. Let's go to Pasta J's. And then we went to Pasta J's, so to speak, and we got a pizza from Pasta J's. And you said, well, what pizza are we going to use? What pizza are we going to order? We're going to order pepperoni pizza. We ordered pepperoni pizza at your recommendation. You, man, I can't even come up with the words, but you gloated over how good this pepperoni pizza is in Pasta J's, and how much better. Let's say, you know what? Take Pasta J's out of it. Let's do Papa John's. You gloated and praised as much as you could how much better this pizza from Papa John's is going to be than Pizza Hut. And you said, I guarantee it. I've been here, and it's going to be good. And then we got the pepperoni from Papa John's, and your response was, well, it's usually good. It usually works. It usually tastes good. Maybe we should go somewhere else. I didn't really mean this spot. Let's do a do-over. Let me pick another pizza spot. Let's pick another one. Can I do that? Can I get a mulligan? Can I do that? Sure. Absolutely. And then y'all jump out at the press conference. Look what it said. What kind of bull crap is this? You take it till you pass? Look, we passed it. I don't want to hear nothing else. We're innocent. Stop talking to us. Stop talking to me. We passed it. Huh. Okay. 64. I think we're and for those of you who are interested, I think this part is kind of talking about Nancy Krebs, and essentially how she called in on Fleet White. I think this is who they're talking about, but yeah, from California. She's talking about, and I read through it, and it was essentially talking about how Fleet Senior had, was abusing her as a child. He's like 3 or 4 or something like that. And, he enlisted the help of Fleet Junior is what he was saying. And then she went on to say that her parents were complicit in, this happening. And the only person that really stood up for her was her grandpa, is essentially what she was saying. And that, even though her parents knew that Fleet Senior and Fleet Junior were doing this to her, essentially what she's saying is that her parents knew it, but they didn't care enough to protect her. And she even mentioned that, her sister was involved in being abused, and the mom knew, and the dad was involved in the abuse on other occasions, I think, if I remember what it's saying correctly, but not going to go in depth in presenting this, but it's there. If you want to go read this, it's 2 pages of it. It's there. We were going to page 77. It looks like, I think it's page 77. I hope it is. Oh, 72, I think, maybe. Is it 72? It may be 72. Oh, October, oh, this is what I was going for. Spent about 1.6 million in the case from 96 to 2001. They spent about 1.6 million dollars on this case. So they spent a lot of money up front on this case, and then afterwards it kind of went downhill because that it took the wings out of the case when you came with that stuff. Boulder police determined that online confession for the murder was a hoax. Yeah, that's in there. And then I wanted so to date, on in this term in December 17th of 2001, it's still fresh. And then, they're going to go through the deposition with Darnay Hoffman. They're also going through the deposition around this time with Darnay Hoffman, or slightly before, somewhere in 2001. But while this is going on, as the 5th anniversary of the murder of JonBenét Ramsey approaches, we have compiled statistical updates. 650 people formally interviewed. Many have been re-interviewed more than one time. 60 outside experts coming in. About 140 people that we were able to narrow it down to. 1,400 items logged. 43,000 pages in the investigative file. We have 5,300 tips. 4,800 letters. Going to 18 states. Spent about 1.7 million. Remains open and active. Any homicide, but particularly the death of a small child, has tremendous impact on the community. So just want to kind of keep going through that. And then the final thing, as you may know, but is reported, you're aware of this, you're familiar with this. I believe. Ramsey case, index unlawful emails sent under Chief Beckner's name. The Boulder Police Department recently became aware, and I want to find these articles so bad because Rocky Mountain News shut down, but it is hard to find these articles. But I want to find them so bad. became aware that someone was unlawfully sending emails using the name of Chief Beckner. On April 25th of 2003, Rocky Mountain News columnist Charlie Brennan received an email titled as being from Chief Beckner, complimenting Mr. Brennan for a recent column he had written on the JonBenét Ramsey case. According to the embedded information within the message, the email was sent from an MSN Hotmail account. Now, this is after the fact that, you've essentially been exonerated by the grand jury and your polygraph exam, so you can go on about your business and about your life, minding your business. So according to the embedded information within the message, the email was sent from an MSN Hotmail account, BecknerBPD@hotmail.com. The email was then signed off with "Regards, Mark. Please see the message below." April 25th of 2003 is when this was sent. Charlie, talking to the columnist. "Just want you to know I thought those 2 articles you wrote yesterday were excellent." And this is on the 25th, so I should be looking on the 24th. 2 articles you wrote today, so it should be on the 25th. Okay, is what I'd be looking for. "Today were excellent. You got everything right, as you always do. Thanks for all your support. Eventually, we'll be proven right." We'll be proven right. Regards, Mark. Being skeptical of the message's authenticity, Mr. Brennan telephoned Chief Beckner to ask him about the message. Chief Beckner confirmed that he did not send a message. The chief was alarmed that someone was apparently using his title and name without authorization to communicate about the John Ramsey case with members of the media. Search warrants were obtained and executed. I know too well this process for MSN Hotmail in California. According to the MSN Hotmail, the Beckner PD Hotmail account was established in 2000. The account creator provided information stating that the owner was Chief Beckner from Boulder, Colorado, and that furthermore provided an accurate birth year for the chief. Further investigation led police to the Internet Protocol IP numbers from where the suspect had been accessing the Beckner PD at hotmail.com account since early March 2003. All access to the Beckner PD at Hotmail account were from a single Netcom, now owned by Earthlink, dial-up account. Search warrants were obtained and executed for Earthlink in Georgia. According to Earthlink's records, the account holder that has been accessing the Beckner PD Hotmail email account is Susan B. Stein, 5760 Long Grove Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. Susan Stein is known as a close friend of John and Patsy Ramsey and has been interviewed as a witness in reference to the Ramsey investigation. This is hilarious. This is absolutely hilarious. What are you doing? This is a grown woman. This is a grown woman. Whoa. You activated it in 2000 because you knew you were about to be up to some foolishness. You activated it in 2000 because you knew you were about to, because you thought about it and you knew you were about to be up to some mess. But you set it down and you got scared and you walked away from it. But then you came back 3 years later and all of your fear went away and you say, you know what? Let's do it. And then they very methodically worked backwards on you and caught you. Search warrants also yielded other messages that had been received by the Beckner PD account. A number of these messages indicate that the user had been attempting to convince others that he or she was Chief Beckner. Others appeared to be nonsensical. Please note that investigators were able to confirm that the messages to and from Rocky Mountain News reporter Charlie Brennan and Rita Johnson were received or sent by those individuals. The other messages were not confirmed as received by those parties. At the request of the Boulder Police Department, members of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation went to Ms. Stein's residence in an attempt to interview her on June 3rd, 2003. However, she refused to talk with a GBI agent. Is that familiar, though, right? Remember when there was a mysterious call placed, a 911 call placed from the Ramseys? And from Fleet White, I believe. And they came to the Ramsey residence and Susan Stein wouldn't open the door. She answered questions from behind the door and said, "Go away. We don't need you," from behind the door. And so in the same fashion, when they showed up to the door, she didn't want to talk. Chief Mark Beckner is alarmed by the discovery that his name and position as a chief has been used in an effort to communicate with others. Given the history of the Ramsey case and the concerns we have had with information being distributed to the public, oftentimes inaccurate information, this discovery is disturbing, stated Chief Beckner. I want the media and the public to know that if they have received communications from this email address purported to be me, that is bogus. This is my address. Now, why would you go to the lengths that you did to do this? Why would you need to do that? Why? It's done, isn't it? You won, right? Why would you need to go to the lengths to do this? Why would you do this? Under Colorado law, criminal impersonation is a Class 6 felony, and impersonating a police officer is a Class 1 misdemeanor. Here we have a second friend going out of their way to act a fool. Now we explained the first one away. Explain this away. Cause the first one was a misdemeanor, right? Oh, I ain't getting no special attention because they're rich. That's happened to 65 out of 151 people. Back off. Everybody gets that treatment in Boulder, Colorado, because that's just how we are. Okay, we're in Atlanta, Georgia now. And it's a misdemeanor. And people who haven't done anything before, this is a felony. Class 6 felony. Impersonating an officer. Class 1 misdemeanor. Criminal impersonation and impersonating an officer. Class 1 misdemeanor. Boulder Police Department and the Boulder County District Attorney's Office have agreed to issue a letter to Susan advising her of her unlawful conduct and that the use of Chief Beckner's name must cease immediately. Boulder Police Department would like anyone to know, like anyone receiving these messages from any reported member, to know that official email addresses use the member's last name and first initial, followed by @bouldercolorado.gov. If you're not sure that the message is legitimate, call us and we will let you know. We're concerned that there could be other messages out there reportedly from either me or other department members that are fake in an attempt to either receive information or communicate false information, stated Beckner. On June 3rd of 2003, Beckner did receive an email from Susan Stein in which she apologized for using the Hotmail account, describing it as a sophomoric prank and apologizing for any distress she may have caused. This has been a journey, but I'm glad you stayed here with me to kind of go through this. Just so we know, if you're ever confused about anything, the cops were keeping us updated and they were letting us know that what they were doing, they weren't bungling the investigation. They were actually very thorough and they received help from several different agencies and the FBI, which is what you keep talking about. They wanted to agree to your terms, but your terms got out of pocket and you knew that your terms were out of pocket. And you knew that they weren't agreed to those. So now what you're going to try to tell us is that it was their fault that you came to the table and they didn't want to come to the table, but you didn't tell us what the terms were. And you didn't tell us, and in the case of the polygraph, you did tell us, I think, if I remember correctly, you told us what the terms were, but you didn't tell us that you backtracked and reneged. That's what you didn't tell us. A lot of information being thrown and being pulled out. Throw this part out, but leave this part out. Half truth. We did talk about sitting down, but I didn't tell y'all that we reneged on the communication efforts. I didn't tell y'all that. And I didn't tell you why, because that might make me look bad. So I'm just going to leave this out there. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Thank you for all your support. Thanks for watching. And till next time, take it easy.